at the PTPA, and he's been an integral part of creating this event this year. So I want to thank you for all your hard work and let you take it away.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's good to be here. I want to first give a shout out to the PTPA and Winners Alliance for all the work that went into trying to get everything together for us here today. This has been a brainchild for some time. Like, how do we provide more services that are outside of just, the court environment, the life that you live inside the lines? And so the idea of creating something beyond the court where we're really thinking about you as people and just more of a holistic way of supporting you, not just from a high performance perspective, but also just from a human perspective, was really the brainchild for why we wanted to put this together, right? I mean, for you to be able to do what you do on the court, you have to have the balance, the resilience, feeling connected, all of the tools that come along. And as you all know, this is a very difficult lifestyle you're living, and there are a lot of challenges. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of that stuff tomorrow night. But first, I just wanted to also mention our sponsors. We have Hilton and Aura and IM8 and the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, Psych Hub, and Wise Scholars. They all leaned in when we asked for some support for this. They are proud partners, and it's amazing that they have signed on for being able to put this event on. We're really happy to align with them, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what some of those services are tomorrow night. So I just want to tee you up to be able to think about coming back for day 2. But with that said, you're going to hear tonight from some doctors and some founders and some professional athletes that are coming from the NBA and from the NFL. And but really tonight's about you. And these people are going to share a lot of their insights about mental health, mental performance. But we really wanted to tailor this for you. And so with that, I'd like you to just turn your attention to some of the notes in front of you right now, specifically this one here. In here, you're going to see the different speakers that we'll have over the both today and tomorrow, a little blurb about who they are, and a space for you to take some notes. So we want this to not necessarily feel like just information that we're throwing at you, but this is a little bit more about what's landing for you. Maybe one way of approaching this is maybe what's one big thing that you took from tonight, and then potentially what's one small action that you want to bring into your routines, right? So with that, I'd like to invite our first guest of the night. This is Dr. Brooke Choulet. I'm very excited to have Brooke here. We met maybe 7-8 months ago at a conference in Arizona, and she immediately understood what we were trying to do here and has a lot of experience in this space. She's the president of the Sports Psychiatry, Sport and Performance Psychiatry Association. She's also coined the performance psychiatrist. She's been in and out of different leagues and teams, associations, and Olympics, et cetera. So she has a wealth of knowledge. And I also want to personally shout her out right now because she's due to have a child literally within a week or so. So she would be here in person if she could, but was gracious enough to make time. Brooke, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited. And like you said, I'm 37 weeks pregnant. So if I wasn't pregnant, I would be there in person, but I appreciate you extending the virtual invitation, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. So maybe for starters, Brooke, can you just share a little bit of your experience in and around professional sports?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in today's day and age, when there's so many different acronyms and degrees and certifications, it really helps first to know who you're talking to and why the heck you should or shouldn't listen to them. So I appreciate that question first. I have an MD. I went to medical school. I did 3 years of training in adult psychiatry, 2 years of training in child and adolescent psychiatry, and then started my own concierge group practice here in Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where I'm based. I quickly landed into the pro sports world early on. I was the consulting psychiatrist for the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury for 2 years. That led to me kind of seeing the light with a lot of the player associations and then becoming a part of their mental health registries for the NBPA, MLBPA, NFLPA, US Olympics, and USSF mental health registries. So I have worked with a lot of athletes from all different types of sports, even pickleball. And then currently I'm the ASU contracted sports psychiatrist for the Sun Devils and their 650 student athletes. So I'm really excited to be here today and to talk about the role of mental health in sport because I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, obviously. And you're so immersed in the professional game and the collegiate game. I'm curious, maybe to kick it off. I'm sure our audience would like to know this as well. What are some of the frustrations that you see that from athletes, based on your experience and within all of those different sports leagues?
Yeah, I feel like we could spend the whole time talking about frustrations, right? So I think a lot of times the unanticipated ones are injuries, right? And like that is incredibly frustrating when you dedicate all day, every day to preparing for your sport, to play at the highest level, to prep hours and hours for that one game day or one competition, and then you get a season-ending injury or you get some sort of injury that kind of puts your schedule out of whack. So that's definitely one that's unanticipated. And then another frustration I see often is performance pressures, right? Not only from who you might expect of coaches, maybe brand partners, family members relying on you for finances, and really puts on this additional pressure that you have to perform in order to meet everyone else's demands. I think another big one too is role uncertainty and transition. So a lot of people might bounce into playing in professional sports and then drop to the league below, transitioning from team to team or city to city. Those are definitely the top three. And then in team sports and tennis, you have doubles. And so that does introduce a team dynamic too. And now you have to work with someone else, talk about cohesion, conflicts with that person, feeling undervalued, underutilized. So those are just a few of many frustrations.
Yeah, I think you hit on many of them that our community also feels as well. Transitions, I think, is one that kind of stands out for me as one that is really a part of the tennis lifespan is constantly. People here are always in flux. You're moving from one space to another, one time zone to another, one stage of a career, one ranking to another, and then maybe ultimately getting to a place where you're not necessarily in the game anymore either. Can we just put a magnifying glass on transitions briefly and just maybe expand on that one a little bit? Because I know that one's probably maybe front of mind for our community.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different types of transitions, right? And like one big one for many are coaching transitions. So when maybe your performance isn't going as well as you hoped, and you're looking for some sort of a reason or an explanation, it can often be easy to look to your team and your immediate inner circle, whether that be coaches or someone on your support staff, nutrition, you name it, physical therapy, and kind of point to that. So that's certainly one type of transition. And then, like you said, too, traveling different time zones. I'd love to talk to my patients about creating routines that are consistent and replicable in every different environment. So whether that's traveling with a picture frame and a candle that smells like home, as silly as that sounds, and keeping that on your nightstand no matter where you're sleeping that night. Just anything you can do to really keep your routine as consistent and replicable as possible can really help.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm sure many of you have ideas. You probably have ways to bring home with you on the road. But I'm glad that you kind of highlighted that point. Speaking of just tennis in general, you mentioned doubles, but on the whole, it's pretty much an individual sport. You do a lot of work primarily with team sports, but also I know you do some work with individual sports as well. Can we talk just a little bit about the specific challenges that, tennis players face and having to go out there, on their own and essentially being their own, team, if you will. What are some of the key differences that you see between team sports and tennis being an individual sport?
Yeah, there's one paper I love that talks about anxiety and sports psychiatry and looking at different statistics. And it really hits the nail on the head that individual sport athletes like tennis are at greater risk for anxiety than team sport athletes. And not only that, but there tends to be a greater internalized sense of failure after loss in individual sports like singles tennis. That's when you lose a NBA championship, there's so many different factors that go into that, anywhere from different teammates to coaches. There's multiple coaches. There's so many different layers to that onion. And so when you're in an individual sport, it can be very easy to internalize that sense of failure and really put a lot of self-blame and making yourself feel really down because of a loss. So yeah, individual sport athletes for sure are relatively more perfectionistic. They set extreme personal goals, experience less social support because they're in an individual sport rather than going to that locker room with 10 other people after, all of which kind of can lead to greater degrees of anxiety than those in team sports.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think that's the experience I've had. I played in college as well as a tennis player, and you own all of your losses. I know this year I've been working with this job for a year now, and it's not uncommon for me to speak to somebody who had a loss who felt like they couldn't go enjoy a good dinner after that,
Mhm.
right? Just really kind of owning that and really kind of replaying that and almost punishing themselves for not being able to have gotten over. So, yeah, that I think you're right, is unique to tennis. I think from a mental fitness perspective, what I've seen a lot this year, some of the primary challenges were difficulties with attention and focus, really staying connected to the support system. Some struggling with purpose and motivation, getting proper rest and recovery, of course, finding ways to access flow or being in the zone and really regulating emotions. And yet, I think it's often difficult to find a place to start. I think there's so much resilience in this room and in this sport that often it feels just like, well, maybe I just need to grind harder and power through. And maybe not necessarily taking that sidestep to really support some things from a mental fitness perspective before it becomes a mental health challenge. And so I think my question really is around how do you frame, mental fitness with athletes and, what specifically is your role? Like, how do you see mental fitness fitting in for life off the court and on the court? How do you get the buy-in from your athletes?
I think mental fitness is everything, right? And that it's really that competitive edge that people need to set themselves apart because you can make the argument that everyone that ends up in the NFL or professional tennis, NBA, they all have the physical skill that got them there. They're all technically great at their game. But what is it that separates those Hall of Famers from all the other athletes? And I really do think it's that mental fitness and that ability to stay resilient and the ability to have grit, which is the combination of passion plus perseverance. And every day, I'm sure you can think if you're an athlete in the audience to a day when you kind of lost that fiery passion and it makes it hard to stay and persevere. But if you can really hone in and develop a sense of grit where you have that the special combination of passion and perseverance, it can really make all the difference in staying mentally resilient. So with mental fitness, we're looking at all different ways to support performance. And yeah, there's so much we can talk about with mental fitness there.
Yeah, I know it's like kind of a cliche word almost. It's like it's hard to really describe. I know you've done some really great work with your 7 pillars. I wonder if we could just maybe unpack those a little bit. as a way for maybe our crowd here just to see a little bit more of what some of those detailed pillars would look like as a way to bolster mental fitness, even beyond grit.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really a lot of what you just laid out in those focus and attention, getting proper rest and recovery, really thinking about how your actions are aligning with your values and your morals. But I think that the biggest thing for people to really take away or reflect on is what are you doing daily to strengthen your mental resilience? Because you are in the gym, you're on the court, you're doing all the things you need to do to become proficient and skilled at tennis, but what are you actually doing so that when it's deuce or when you have a setback or you're down a few games in a set, like how can you stay focused and use that physical skill to bounce back? Because it's really easy. I'll talk to athletes all day that say they get caught up in the negative rumination or that anxiety or the negative self-talk. So if you're spending all your time in that like fifth game of the set thinking about the other mess ups you just had in the first few games, how are you supposed to stay mentally fit and resilient in order to overcome and win that next game? So I think really reflecting and being self-aware on your thought processes is definitely the first step to detecting, okay, what is it that I can work on to develop my mental fitness further?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I think the question that comes into my mind and probably some of yours as well is like, okay, that's all great, but I'm already maxed out. Like I have no time. I'm barely able to sustain with what I already have now. And now you want me to layer on some more training and some more protocols. How do you speak to the athletes that are, basically saying, how would I add more to my already full plate?
Mhm. I love it when people tell me that in my office. It gets me excited, right? They're like, well, I just don't have time for that. And then we lay out all the things they do find time for, whether it's pulling up their iPhone screen time usage and seeing that they spend 3 hours on TikTok or on average a day, or, looking at a breakdown. I call it a task audit of what are you actually doing in a day that's consuming your time? Because we all make time to hopefully like drop off and pick up our kids at school or doing things that we have to do, showing up to the court for practice, attending competitions. So why are you not able to schedule time for something that's a high priority that can significantly positively impact your on-court performance? So I really look at it as a reallocation of time and prioritization.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's smart. We are what we do, I guess is a way of
Yeah.
saying that. Um, so I'd like to shift gears a little bit and maybe pan out and look at the big picture. Um, with all of your experience in different leagues and with the Olympics, ASU, and et cetera, imagine if you could create the most comprehensive player-centric model for holistic support of professional athletes. What would that look like from your perspective? Here at the PTPA, we're trying to design something and continue to build in the service of making life easier, safeguard and support all of our players. We're in the NBPA right now, and they have so many services. It's really impressive, but what would an ideal PA or ecosystem in general look like from your perspective?
Mhm. Yeah, I love this question because a lot of leagues, right, not necessarily PAs, but a lot of leagues tend to just patchwork services, right? They tend to patchwork services and are more about putting out fires than proactively meeting needs and preventing escalation of things. So, for me, in order to create a really well-rounded support for professional athletes, there's kind of five pieces to this puzzle. The first piece is mental health and performance care. So there needs to be embedded, sports psychiatry, psychology, mental performance optimization, skill development, and just a normalization for those services. So a lot of times we'll see in training rooms, player schedules are on the wall, they have massage, and then PT, strength room. Well, why isn't like a mental performance session on that board? Why can't we normalize that? So that's piece one. Piece two is definitely physical health and recovery. So, sports medicine, recovery tools, sauna, cold plunge, red light, PT, massage, all of that. The third pillar would definitely be helping players identify their identity and life beyond their sport, because even though they're healthy and playing their sport now, we need to help prepare them for what life may look like after. The fourth thing is organizational culture and ecosystem. That's huge. We need to make sure that there's positive organizational culture with communication between disciplines, because that seems to be lacking. And then the last one is definitely, I think, technology and data, where we have secure platforms, dashboards tracking sleep, nutrition, stress, all of these different performance markers. So in my ideal world, those five things would kind of come together to create a 360 model for athlete care.
Nice, yeah, and I know you're advocating for those things right now, and I do see that the progress is being made, in general on kind of the macro ecosystem. Last question for you, and then we want to invite Deontay to come in. It has to do with the influence that coaches and player support teams have in supporting, their athletes from a mental health perspective. How influential are coaches and supporters, and maybe what are a few things that they can keep top of mind if they're, trying to support their players as well?
Yeah, coaches and player support teams are really everything, because athletes know this best. You tend to spend more time with your coaches and health and performance staff during season or when you're in competition than your own family oftentimes. And so it's really important for coaches to help facilitate psychological safety and talk openly about things like resilience and, hey, how are you sleeping? What are you doing to recover after like our practice today? And just having more open dialogue about stuff other than technical skill is really helpful, because although coaches and player support teams don't replace mental health professionals, they can definitely amplify our impact and help connecting an athlete to services when it's needed.
Great, thank you, Brooke. Um, let's bring on Deontay. I want to introduce him real quick, and then we'll have the pleasure of having Brooke ask Deontay some questions. Deontay, good to see you. This is Deontay Hardy. He's made his mark in the NFL as a wide receiver, and he was a true playmaker in the league, still is. But what I think makes him stand out, and what we really wanted to invite him on here to talk about, was his openness to conversations beyond football, and some of the challenges and some of the lessons, and also just the importance of mental fitness in sustaining success. He's got a great story. Can't wait to hear from him, his wisdom. Welcome, Deontay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's good to see you again.
Good to
This
see
is
you.
my third time I get to interview Deontay, so I'm excited that he's here and joining us, because his journey into the NFL is quite unique, and he was told many times he wasn't going to make it. So that's what I wanted to kind of start with, is kind of tell us about your journey into the NFL, because I think it's one of true grit, that combination of passion plus your perseverance, because you were told you would never make it by some.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people, they hear NFL, and they think of these big, strong guys, which the NFL really is. I'm just a 5'7" kid, from Baltimore. And so, like you were saying, all my life I've been told I was too small, I wasn't big enough, and it would definitely be a steep hill for me to climb. So really, it was just me being persistent, me being consistent, and not only just trusting in myself, but trusting in God, and then just trusting in my village. And by village, I mean like my family. Um, Growing up, wasn't really heavily recruited. Didn't get really any offers that I wanted out of high school. Didn't really even get recruited in high school, like going into high school. You know, nowadays a lot of these teams are recruiting like it's college or the NFL. Nobody really came to me. Nobody was really knocking at my door. So it was really just me just putting my head down, going to work every day. Really from rec ball through high school, all the way through college. And I even got to a point where like I was doubting myself, like I'm seeing all these guys who I thought that I was better than, um, or yeah, I thought that I was better than getting these chances. And at one point, it was like nobody was even talking to me about the NFL. And so I'm sitting down and I'm having conversations with my friends, my family, and I'm like even questioning it myself, like, is the NFL really, something that I can even do? And just having those conversations, having the right people around, and just like I said, just believing in myself, being consistent in my process, and just putting all my faith in God, I got to where I really wanted to be.
Yeah, and with you too, not only have you had that challenge going into the league, but you've also struggled with injuries too, as have many athletes, because in my opinion, it's not if, it's a when. And
Yeah,
so obviously injuries don't just affect your body, but they impact the mind as well. So can you share your experiences dealing with injuries and how it affected your mental health to be isolated, not a part of the team at that time, going through rehab and recovery?
yeah, for sure. I mean, the physical aspect is always going to take care of itself. NFL has a bunch of great doctors surrounding you, putting together treatment plans for you and everything like that. So I mean, that's going to take care of itself. Um, the mental part is when you're in a daily routine, meaning you're coming in Monday through Friday to get your body work done, to get your workouts in, eating certain things. You have a set schedule, and you're doing these things. You're doing these things every day throughout the week, and so when you get hurt, you kind of have to shift. And it's now the team is making a schedule for you when you rehab, when you can eat, what type of rehab you can do. You're not involved with the team as much. You're not allowed to be on a practice field. You're not working out with the guys. You're not in those meetings. So, like you said, you kind of feel that isolation, and that could take a toll. Like we get in the facility at 6:45, 7 a.m. You're with those guys from 6:45 all the way till 4:45, 5 p.m. So when you do get hurt, it's just you and the trainer and the doctor. Like you're not really with those guys every day. You're not having those conversations. You're not laughing and having fun. So and then your days get shorter. So instead of you being around the guys from 6:45, 7 a.m. to 4:45, 5 p.m., you're going home at 11:30, 12 o'clock. And now you're just home wishing you could be out there. Like I know a lot of times we take the practice for granted, the workouts for granted, the meetings for granted. But when you're sitting at home by yourself and you're trying to figure out like what to do, you so now it's just creating a new schedule and trying to get yourself like, to like a point where like you could get healthy faster because you want to be in those meetings, you want to be at practice. So it definitely takes a toll. You feel the isolation, but the best thing to do is just try to stay busy, try to get the best rehab you could get so that you are able to get back out there and be around those guys.
Yeah, it's really hard, and like you're talking to a bunch of tennis players too, right, who are in that individual sport. And so it's like you experience with rehab where you do feel isolated and there's a lot going through your mind. What kind of kept you most consistent and in it during that rehab time? Because that's a time when people often lose motivation or they don't see rehab as productive, and it's easy to kind of let yourself get out of whack from a mental standpoint.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, I've had a fair share of injuries. So I mean, the first time I got injured, it was kind of just I was new to New Orleans. I was new to the team. I was a rookie. All right, so I didn't really know too many people. And my family's not around. My family is all living in Baltimore, and so I'm just in the training room all day. Just like I said, just me and a trainer, and we just doing rehab constantly. And it's like I'm not getting to be around those guys. So for me, it was just trying to figure out, the best way to reschedule or figure out another routine. And so by the time I got hurt, again, because like we say, it's inevitable. It's not if, it's when. I'm able to go back and be like, okay, this is what I did. This is the things I did during this time. Maybe I might try to. I know that their schedule is this, so when they're in the locker room, I'll try to just be able to pop in the locker room, or when they got lunch, I'll try to just pop in there. And then I was able to, just work with some of the trainers like, hey, can we alter my schedule so that when the team is doing this, I could be doing this. So even if I can't like actually be out on the field, I can watch them from like the weight room. So it's just really just trying to figure out the best ways to manage the time and so that you can still feel like you're a part of that, but also getting the work that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the word routine too. So bring us to when you're back playing, walk us through your game day routine because I always talk to people about how important it is to have a consistent game day routine and what's yours look like. And do you believe in that power of the consistency and sameness?
Yeah, for sure. Consistency is everything. I try not to be like one of those superstitious people, like I try not to eat the same thing and listen to the same thing or try, but as I went through, I was kind of like, this is really like what keeps me calm, like what keeps me sane. So for me, I'm eating the same breakfast every morning. I'm praying. If I have time, which usually I do, I'll get on the game with my friends before a game. Like my friends would even wake up early for me because I'd be like, yeah, I just got to get on Call of Duty for about an hour. I'll have time to take a nap or things like that. But I'm listening to I have one playlist, so I'm listening to the same songs. I'm even superstitious to the point where like, if let's say like one of my favorite artists drops a new album and they have songs I like, I won't even add those to the playlist because I'm just like so stuck in, like what's been successful for me. So to me, consistency is just everything.
Mhm. Yeah. And mental health in the NFL is becoming a bigger conversation than ever before. How's your view of mental health evolved from when you first entered the league to now?
It was something that nobody really talked about. Um, I don't know if it like just made people uncomfortable or what, but nowadays you see so many people, like so many NFL players now have podcasts and they try to, incorporate the mental health aspect into it. Even like towards kind of like the last 2 years, I want to say, in the league. It's just been one of those things that we can have those conversations in a locker room. And the NFL itself has trying to been and has trying to be they try to incorporate it into like those team meetings and stuff. And it's not just like a 2 to 3 minute presentation. Like it's not something that we just skip through now. Now it's something that we actually spend 45 minutes to an hour to actually talk about. They actually take time to present like the resources that we have and the actions that we could take if we do feel as though um, we need to take that step. And then it's not even okay, well, we have like these people in the facility. We also can give you recommendations to people outside of the facility. So I think the NFL or just I think just sports in general have taken like that next step. And I think as time continues to go, they'll just continue to make strides and it'll just be those topics that we can continue to talk about and talk about. Like I think you said that you were gonna do like a panel, I think, at like one of the games. I don't know if I was supposed to say that, sorry. But like even that, it's like that just goes to show like the time and the effort that we're putting into mental health
Mhm.
for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I jump in and ask one too, Deontay? You
So
mentioned the league, right? And when you say that, everybody knows what it means. It's the NFL, um, and yet you're all fierce competitors and going up against one another every single week. We are, a players' association that's just sort of building a little solidarity, and we're a sport where everyone is often always competing against one another. And that can feel a little disconnected, right? Where, here we are against our opponents, but yet at the same time, we're also part of something bigger than that. Can you talk a little bit about the mindset of kind of being in the league and, it's fierce on the field, but is there a connection with players that they see themselves as almost as bonded together too?
yeah, for sure. We all are going through the same thing, which is life. So at the end of the day, we gotta be macho, we gotta be strong, we gotta be fierce competitors, we gotta be all of that because at the end of the day, this is what we do to take care of ourselves and our families. But at the same time, we all got to go home at some point. We all got to go out into the real world, right? And we all deal with, like, the more we talk to one another, the more we understand and the more that we realize that we all deal with kind of some of the same struggles. And it may be different in some cases, but at the same time, it's still life, it's still struggle, it's still things that um, we need to talk about. We can't do everything by ourselves, so being able to and then think about it like this: we all are on the same team. We're all competing to against other teams or other players. So it's like we're building this bond, we're building this relationship, this brotherhood. Why wouldn't we be able to, or why shouldn't we be able to go to our brother or go to our sister and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need help with this. So just building those relationships is key and it's important.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that. I wanted to just turn to our audience here and see, we've got some people taking some notes, and I'm just curious if there's any questions from the crowd for either Brooke or Deontay before we move on to the next speaker.
I have one more for you while Damon's waiting for questions, Deontay. What advice would you give to younger players who are just beginning their careers about protecting their mental well-being, whether they're in football, tennis, like whatever the sport is? What would you suggest?
Um, you did certain things to get into the position that you're in. So, um, and that was really just being, I kind of like spoke on this in a video I posted not too long ago, but I was like, it was just talking about being present in your process, and it was just like, everything that you did to get you to where you are. Um, So why not just continue to do that? There will be ups and downs, highs and lows. That's just life in general. But staying true to yourself, being present in your process, and just leaning on not only your family and your friends, but leaning on God. I think that's really the only advice. Just stay true to yourself. Like I think that's really the best advice I could give. Just stay present in your process, stay true to yourself. Um, Understand that you can't deal with anything by yourself. Don't be scared to go out and ask for help because if we could do it by ourselves, nobody would need anybody.
Stay present in your process, stay true to yourself. Those are wise words. Um, one more shot at the crowd out here. Yeah, Robin.
I have a question regarding recovery. Since like athletes, they're always playing injured, always pushing their body to the limits. So high inflammation. So in terms of when you push your body too hard, sometimes your sleep is not as good. In terms of restorative sleep, the more you push, the more your body is inflamed. And so the more you need to push back into recovery. How do you do that beside nutrition, beside the little tricks you can do with biohacking? What else do you use for your recovery to enhance that to the highest professional level?
Yeah, what's your recovery protocol, especially after, game day when you have inflammation and, you're in that sympathetic state? How do you bring yourself down and heal the body?
Yeah, so I try to stay as far as away from the cold tubs. I just hate the cold, but they say it worked. I don't know. I don't really, yeah, I don't really believe in it. But nah, for me, it's if I need the cold tub, I'll get in the cold tub. It's a lot of stretching, and then really it's just whatever. Like if I go to one of the trainers and I'll be like, oh, I feel this or this is tight. They'll usually just give me whatever it is, the rehab that I need. But for me, like my personal issues was like really kind of like my hamstrings. I always had hamstring problems once I got into the league. So for me, it was trying to push myself to a certain limit without overdoing it. And they kind of have like all this tech stuff that they can give you. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but Really, it's just running and working out as much as I can until I feel like my body is about to break. And then once I get to that point, push a little harder so that my body knows what that feels like. And so once I do that, it's just a lot of stretching, a lot of lifting, a lot of running. And then I'll do like we have like Normatex, I'll do dry needling, a lot of soft tissue stuff. We do a lot of massages. So for me, I try to keep myself out that red zone, but if I do, uh, the trainers help me figure out all of that other stuff.
And to whoever asked that question, we're about to hear from the best, Dr. Jason, on those specific tools and recovery strategies too. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's give it up for Deontay, though. Deontay, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. And as Brooke said, our next guest is the founder and chief wellness officer of Therabody. And as many of you probably know, it's globally recognized as a leader in recovery and performance technology. And with that, Dr. Jason is in the house with us. Hi, Dr. Jason. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes, we
can.
can.
Sweet. This worked. Thanks
It
for having me.
Great. Thank you for
Absolutely.
being here.
Of
I'll kick
course.
it off by just recognizing what a leader you are in wellness, in the wellness space and products. But Theragun and now Therabody have become staples for athletes everywhere around the world. So, what do you think made your approach stand out?
Um, I think in the early days it was the fact that the athletes were able to take care of themselves, and it wasn't all of the trainer's responsibility. And so in the early days, the trainers were excited about what I had because it was something that the players could take and use on themselves. Unless a person was injured, you know how there's a hierarchy of athletes that you have on a team that you're working with, one that may be injured and so some of the guys that weren't necessarily injured but just wanted to get warmed up, work with a physio, that's where I felt like it was a big opportunity was for us to be able to give something to someone that they could take care of themselves. I can't tell you how many times I had athletes tell me, "Oh my God, if I'd have had this, specifically a Theragun, if I'd have had this in my life, I could have played for 3 more years or something like that." So that's where it took off for us was this educating you how to treat your body, understanding when to use it. We had protocols that we called prepare, perform, and recover. Super easy protocols to apply. You didn't have to memorize a bunch of things. You just knew how to use it. So that was where our opportunity was initially.
And from your perspective, what role does recovery play in peak performance? Because there's so much focus on what's happening in the strength room and then out on the court and or the field. And so what role does recovery play in peak performance? And how do you explain to athletes that recovery isn't really optional, but a necessity for longevity?
It's a great question. I think the mentality over the years has changed from recovery days or recovery time to it all being incorporated into performance. So when I'm out talking with people now, I tell people, especially athletes, that this is performance. Yes, you are recovering from what just happened, but you're also in that harmony of performance, treat yourself, performance, treat yourself. So I look at this more of as a preparing for performance than it is necessarily just recovery. Now, you think of an athlete that has a night game or is performing at night. The entire day, their nervous system is in a sympathetic state no matter what they think because
Mhm.
they've got breath work, they have all these other things they're working throughout the day. And some guys may take performance enhancing caffeine or Red Bull or whatever that is before their game. Now, win or lose, your game gets over at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And you have to figure out a way to regulate your nervous system so that you can rest. And that's where I feel like understanding this harmony of dealing with your nervous system, recognizing when you're in a sympathetic state, because we need that. A lot of you guys, male and female, couldn't do what you're doing if you didn't have a sympathetic nervous system. but then also recognizing how important it is to be in a parasympathetic state. Because if your heart rate isn't low and your body isn't in a parasympathetic state, you're not recovering. So you're just wearing your body out. And I think the opportunity we have is to help performers, high performing athletes, understand their own rhythms between sympathetic and parasympathetic, and learning when to turn that on, how to ramp it up, and then how to ramp it down. And for me, the fun thing has been over the years is validating our claims through science and research for our research team, where we actually come out with protocols where we have a prepare protocol with some of the same tools we use to do recovery with. So you're amping up, or you're sort of activating your nervous system in a way you can perform, and understanding what that looks like, because a lot of you can do that, but then also learning how to down-regulate your nervous system to be able to go to sleep the night after a game or a performance. So for me, it's really this idea of incorporating it in your performance, not just recovering. Now, the timing of this, Deontay was talking about cold plunges. I'm actually a big fan of those. I know some people aren't, but it's knowing when to use them. That is a stressor on the body. And if you're applying that stressor to your body to do what he talked about, which was challenging your nervous system and then finding a way to overcome that and get back to homeostasis in your body, that's a great tool. But if you're using it excessively, then it's too much of a stressor on your body. That goes with really anything, like hot saunas, red light saunas, all those things. Understanding when to plug those into your system, your programming, so that your nervous system and your body is getting the challenge that it needs, but then it also has the ability to overcome that and get stronger. We don't get stronger in the gym. Newsflash. We don't get stronger in the gym. You get stronger from recovering. You get stronger from rest. You get stronger from nutrition. You get stronger from hydration. That's the mentality I think some of these athletes that are high performers are starting to understand.
Can I speak to that one a little bit too? Because I think that, in this room right here might be players playing night matches late at night, right? It's something that, we're really trying to push back against, because it's, the way the schedule is set up. It's often 2 a.m. You got to do media, you have to try to wind down, to your point. If you were coaching some of these athletes, some of these tennis players that are, like you said, the game ends late, what might be a few protocols or strategies that you might suggest?
Well, we found in the science that I'll use my terms to this, but your heart doesn't lie. And if your heart's pounding at 80 beats a minute and you're trying to go to sleep, it's not going to work. And so whether that's from caffeine 3 hours before, or a amped up match or a game, it's learning how to down regulate your nervous system. So I'm going to give you guys some science here. When you close your eyes and just breathe for 30 seconds, you have the ability to lower your heart rate by 10 points. So we took that another level and thought, okay, what are some other things we can do with your eyes closed and breath work that will actually assist you to get your down regulate your nervous system? So I think we sent some goggles. I'm hoping that they got there in time, but
They did.
We have these thing called smart goggles. They're smart goggles because they have a PPG reader that sits against your cheek and it monitors your heart rate. But what it does, it's really cool, is it checks your heart rate and it feeds you a heart rate lower than yours. Our energy systems in our body, especially our heart, tries to match its environment. So you guys know what it feels like to have the fans cheering and rallying you up. That's nervous system engagement. So a protocol that I would provide is putting the goggles on. We've done this with Premier League teams in the UK. These guys have an hour-long ride back from the bus, and it's 2 a.m. to your point. Putting our smart goggles on and regulating your own heart rate and breath work will lower your heart rate almost 20 points. So if you can get down to around 60, 55, now your body's recovering. Now you're in a state. And the biggest thing for me is the voices in our heads. When the voices are running crazy and you're replaying a play, you're replaying a point, that's the sympathetic system trying to regulate and find an answer. And to be able to shut those voices down is the big key. So when I work with these high performers, it's learning how to turn the voices off and get into a space where there's calm and their heart rate's lower and they can actually go to sleep or rest from that. And a lot of from our jet boots to our sleep mask, the certain frequencies in the Theragun, and then these the smart goggles, I made those for you to put them on and down regulate your nervous system. And it links to our website. It links to our app so that you can see what your heart rate was when you first put them on, and then what your heart rate is 15 minutes later, which is how long that protocol is.
It's amazing.
And
It's amazing. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, that recovery is performance. So mental health is also performance health. And what I like about your products is you do focus on that mind-body connection. And so how do you design tools, or can you kind of educate everyone what tools you offer that really emphasize that mind-body connection and working on both at the same time?
Yeah, I've created what I call a performance kit. And it's just 4 things. It's a Theragun, it's a Recovery Therm back, which is our new back wrap that has, I'm not trying to pitch the products, but I want you to understand. It has vibration, heat, and you're actually calming the nervous system with that. So it's understanding how to apply these things and being, Dr. Brooke, you talked about this. It's not a trick, really. It's actually a lot easier than you think, but it's being in tune with your body's own regulation. Am I amped up? Do I have an aura? Is there a whoop? Is there something that I can wear where I'm monitoring my heart rate? And you're checking in with that. So if you're feeling amped up and you know your heart rate is at 80 beats a minute, that's really connecting your mind and body, recognizing, wow, I can't calm down. I'm sweating, I'm breathing heavy, I can't breathe through my nose. To downregulate your nervous system is understanding what your biometrics are. So if you have a biometric reader, you start to recognize, oh man, I got to calm down a little bit. I need to regulate my nervous system. Breath work's great. I work with a guy named Dr. Stephen Porges, who came up with a thing called the polyvagal theory, which is how our body stores and releases trauma. And a lot of times when you're dealing with trauma, and we've all had it, especially athletes, you lose a match, you worked your ass off for something and it didn't go the way you wanted it to. That's traumatic. And where you store that and how you hold on to that and then how you release that, it's some of the new science we're working on. So Theragun's frequency on your body for 2 minutes or more activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So if you're using this on your shins, on the bottom of your feet, on your low back, on your traps, and you're regulating your breath work, you're monitoring your biometrics, that's the mind-body connection. It's not this woo-woo thing. It's actually physically understanding what are your biometrics reading and how are you regulating that with your breath work and some of these other physical modalities.
Yeah, it's so interconnected, like you said, and you say a rapid heartbeat of 80, and I'm imagining the people I've worked with that they're like 105, 110 out on the quarter field and trying to calm down those inner thoughts. And the one thing I really do like is for the people that are thinking, well, I wouldn't even know the first thing about how to use these products, is that the app walks them through it, right? So you could put in, okay, this is what I want to focus on, or this is what my issue is, and it'll actually walk you through a simulation, which in and of itself, to me at least, is calming because it's forcing you to think about the present moment rather than whatever it is that's consuming your mind. So, in terms of sleep, stress, physical recovery, they're all deeply interconnected. How do you see the technology you've created to help support player performance on game day?
That's, I think, to respect each player, it's also kind of their routine. But I think knowing what your routine is and how to regulate your nervous system. I have some NFL players that will put our jet boots on for 7 to 10 minutes before they take the field. It's not for recovery. It's really to get the blood flowing and activate their nervous system so that they can go out and perform. We have these feedback mechanisms in our body, and you all of the athletes will understand this. If you walk out cold on a court, at what point you feel comfortable to really go for it at 100%, 110%, whatever that is. That's your nervous system speaking to your body and your mind, telling you, I'm ready and I'm pretty safe to go full out right now. That's a process for every athlete. And what we've found is using our products to help facilitate that process is some of the things these high performers are using. I work with, athletes from Red Bull, and I mentioned the Premier League and NFL, a lot of different athletes. That's where we're able to effectively help them get through those out of control moments for just a second, is to just kind of calm their body and recognize how they can use these things physically on their body. I mentioned Stephen Porges and using Theragun on your body to help release trauma. The physical touch on your body allows your body to calm down and release some of those voices in your head. So this is really about, for me, it's about understanding how and when to hit the gas and how and when to let off and how to deal with those things. The last thing you want is to deal with some sort of personal issue when you lost a game, and we all know that. So just being able to get into a place where your nervous system is matching the environment, that's really my goal. And you mentioned our app. The education that I do, the time that I spend with athletes, is helping them understand how to apply these things, because it is a little different with every athlete.
Mhm. And one last question for me before I turn it over to Damon is, looking ahead, what innovations in recovery and well-being are you most excited about? Do you have anything exciting you're working on you could share with us, or where do you really see the future of this going?
I've got a couple of things I'm working on that I'm pretty excited about. Cold has an effect. I'm trying to think how I can say this without giving away too much. Cold applied in the right place at the right time actually has a positive effect on the nervous system.
Mhm.
So learning how to apply cold to certain parts of your body. You guys have seen Djokovic has those palm cooling mitts that he's worn. If you think about some of that stuff, we're looking in that direction. And then iterating further on some of our other products. So you'll see some new versions coming out of some of our existing products. We have a new mini that's coming out that's going to have some electrified attachments. So you'll get heat, vibration, and cold with something you can throw in your backpack or your gym bag. We work a lot right now on nervous system regulation. And so I hope that when you see our products that you recognize this isn't just about recovery. This is about speaking to your nervous system and getting your body into a state that it can recover so that you can perform again.
Great.
Yeah, amazing. The products are incredible. And yet I also feel really drawn to a couple of the things that you said early in the conversation, which were around closing your eyes and breathing and being able to drop your heart rate 10 points just by doing that, right? That's something on the fly for free, low-hanging fruit for people. And then I also really appreciate the idea of creating a mindset around recovery, that it is part of the process. It's not just, checking a box for, to try to get back on the field. It is literally part of that process. And I wonder if, from a nervous system perspective, we're more aligned when we feel like we're content with the process of recovery, as opposed to feeling like I want to hurry up and get this done to get back out onto the field.
Mhm.
Right. Dr. Jason, thank you so much for your wisdom. I'm just going to turn to the room real quick and see if there's anybody want to ask a question while we have him here before we turn to our last guest.
I have a little FOMO. I wish I was in the room.
I know, we wish you were here too. We wish you were here too. All right, let's give it up to Dr. Jason and thank him very much for supplying some products for as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Jason. Hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah. Congratulations for you guys doing this and focusing on the right things. Appreciate it. Thanks, Dr. Brooke.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jason.
And our last guest here, bringing up the rear of the evening here, is Keita Bates-Diop. And he's a standout forward, built a career on perseverance, adaptability, consistency at the highest level of basketball. And then really beyond all that, though, you have a unique perspective on pressures and responsibilities that come with professional sports. And that was one of the main reasons that we wanted to have you here to really talk a little bit about this summit's called Beyond the Court, right? And so we really want to kind of key in on some of the things from your through your experience and with your wisdom that occur beyond the court. So Keita, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Can you hear me well enough?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, I might have had an interesting career and path so far. I've been able to play for 5 or 6 teams, and every team is very different. And the mentality of me and the team sometimes doesn't align. The vision for the teams have to change it constantly. The foundation for things is there, and that's just stay constant. But being able to adapt to whatever the situation is has been very important to me.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit earlier about transition and some of the frustrations that come with that earlier tonight. So for you, how have transitioned from new cities to new locker rooms shaped your resilience and how you mentally approach the game?
But like I said, it just changes every single time, whether it's from a good team to a bad team, an older team to a young team, and vice versa. The consistency of my normal routine has to be there, but depending on if however a team measures success is maybe not wins and losses, maybe it's the growth of the young guys, and that can be frustrating for a competitor, someone who wants to win. But then it's also okay, these little things for these other guys might be more important for their development than mine, right? So those are tough pills to swallow. And the other way is going from a not so great situation to a better one is like, oh, everything matters now. Everything didn't matter then, but now it's like, okay, every little thing matters. Every film session matters. The travel, the recovery matters more now because of the pressures, depending on a bigger market team, a smaller market team, stars on a team, all that stuff kind of goes into it. It can weigh on guys heavily.
Yeah. And how do you adjust to a new environment while also not getting too comfortable, right? Because you know that it might be temporary and you're also trying to be positive about the new environment, but how do you balance that? Trying to assimilate and adjust, but also not getting too comfortable.
It took a while, it took a couple of years to kind of figure it out. Even little things like being on the road, taking little trinkets, little family mementos, a notebook, keeping a journal, whatever it is, just to kind of keep that, I guess, positive mindset no matter what. Because at any point in time during the year, you could go somewhere else. But being present in the moment, if you're not present in the moment, it's going to make it that much worse and that much more daunting that December 15th is coming up, or January or February 6th is coming up, and a lot of guys get really, really nervous because they're not present in that moment, regardless of what happens. It's going to be out of your control, regardless. But being present and helping or doing what you can kind of lessens that pressure, because it is a very leaving or getting a call at 10 a.m., having to go somewhere at 6 p.m. and leaving all your stuff in your apartment or house or
Yeah.
whatever, leaving your family and kids. Luckily, I don't have those at the moment, but a lot of guys have to leave their wife, kids, girlfriend for weeks at a time at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. And so for you then, during this long, filled with travel and pressure NBA season, what mental skills or practices help you sustain your energy and focus across such a demanding schedule?
Sleep. I thought of a lot of different things, but I think I come back to sleep a lot, because regardless of whatever your routine is, however you're feeling that day, we all know if you're tired or exhausted, it's really hard to do all those things. So just getting enough sleep kind of the rest of the day makes it that much easier. Getting stuff pushed from 10, 11, 12, starting at 12 instead of 9 or 10 o'clock really goes a long way, especially traveling different time zones, weather, big win, big loss, getting in at 2, 3, 4 a.m. But you still have to get treatment, get shots up, whatever it is. Regardless, getting that sleep in is probably the number one thing. I think that, and then the raising the mental just awareness have been two of the big things the NBA is kind of focused on, because they see how important it is in guys' recovery and their mental state.
hmm And before you jumped on too, we were talking about how some of the tennis matches are super late at night. Are you a fan of pregame naps or not?
I'm a fan. That works for me. But I will say though, everyone's different, right? Like some guys don't nap at all. I know guys that do front or back nine of golf before games. I could never do that. But the most I would nap is an hour. I always set my clock for 2 p.m. regardless if I go to sleep at noon, 1:30, I have to get up by 2
Mhm.
and start moving around, getting blood flow again because most rookies don't understand that, or most younger people don't understand that. You can get groggy if you take too long of a
Yeah,
nap to perform late at night. At least in my for me. So whatever that is, I'm a big nap guy though. I'm a big
yeah.
purveyor of getting some rest.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think what you said though is important about becoming alert, right? Not sleeping
Mhm.
until 4 or 5 o'clock before you have to roll up to the arena, but actually being strategic and using it as a recovery modality is important. And earlier too, we were talking about mental fitness. How do you kind of define being mentally fit and how has it influenced your performance on the court?
I think it can be defined in different ways, but at least for me, it's a steady hand, it's being able to be flexible in situations, being adaptable, but also being confident in the things I do work for me, that I can translate wherever I go. It's, I have to get this treatment. I have to do this meditation. I have to sleep by this, whatever this time is. I think that's just being able to be consistent in whatever your workout is for your mind.
Yeah. And the conversation too around mental health in the NBA has grown a lot in recent years. From your perspective, what's changed the most since you entered the league?
I think the awareness of it, from top to bottom, right? I think as each
Mhm.
year progressed, a lot of guys came out. I know DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love came out and spoke about their mental health struggles and things they kind of go through. But then COVID, I think, was the pivotal point, just because, more specifically, the bubble. Because a
Mhm.
lot of guys, about half the league was down there, and if they saw that, hey, these guys are really affected by being down here. It's affecting not the play was great, but a lot of guys are struggling through a lot, being away with their family. We were alone, kind of isolated. So it was like, okay, we need to start taking this more seriously as time goes on. And from my time in 2018, it was like one checkup, but now it's, so you were in Phoenix, like people have hired outsourced, professionals to help in-house all the time. So I think COVID was a big kind of point for that, but I think it's progressed every year.
Mhm. And my last question, then I'll turn it over to Damon, is what advice would you give to younger players who are just beginning their careers about protecting their well-being while also trying to be successful in their sport?
I think it's finding a routine that works for you. I know some people try and just take what X person does because it works for them, but it may not be who they are. Only you know who you are. And I think that the earlier you find that out, whether it's getting uncomfortable in different situations, trying things out, maybe you take an ad, maybe you don't, maybe you watch film, maybe ride a bike, take a walk, whatever it is. But I think it's
Mhm.
finding whatever works for you and then going from there, and not really trying to emulate a specific person, kind of taking what you need from everybody.
Mhm. Great. Thank
Nice,
you.
Kita. Yeah, just one last one for me, and we'll start to wrap it up here tonight. I asked Deontay about this, about the NFL and NBA. We're in the NBA PA right now,
The
and
office looks familiar.
yeah, right, right. I find it, a game is being played, everyone's going full on, full out, could be chippy, it's as highest competition possible, and then the game ends, and then players from opposite teams shake hands with each other. We shake hands with each other too at the end of tennis matches. But this idea, for us thinking about a PA in the tennis world, how do you make sense of competing against people, with everything you got, but then also realizing you're all connected too? That's something that I think is just really interesting to think about.
I think that just takes the bigger picture of all this, especially it's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, whatever, between whatever league it is, whether it's NFL, tennis, NBA, whatever it is. I think at the end of the day, it is a game. And most of it, I assume like tennis, you probably all have known each other for a long time. So we can pretend that I've known you for 20 years or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, a lot of us, our families are friends. Basketball in general has grown so wide now. The business has grown to the point where everyone's involved in the MVP, everyone's involved in the league office and the decisions and the CBA, and it's almost gotten bigger than basketball. And that we kind of have to, for this product to keep getting forward, we have to be together. You can have obviously your rivalries and competitiveness, but when it comes down to the bigger picture of things, we have to have some solidarity, and that's being shown more and more. And now some guys go back and forth about we're too nice to each other, but the owners always stick together, right? They beef a little bit, but the players also have to stick together as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight and wisdom. Anybody have any questions for Kita? All right, let's give it up for Kita. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Good to
Brooke.
see
buddy.
you.
Appreciate
too.
it. Good luck.
Thank-
And Brooke, I also just want to really thank you so much for taking the time not only to share your own wisdom, but to ask questions for, our guests here tonight. A real pleasure to have you, and hopefully you will be going dark for a little while you bring another soul into this world. So
Thank
good luck
you.
to you. Good luck to you with everything. Hope everything goes smooth, and we'll see you with child hopefully soon.
Appreciate it. I'll only be dark for 2 weeks, but
All
I
right.
appreciate you having me and look
Yeah.
forward to being there in person next year.
Sounds great. Let's give it up for
Thanks.
Brooke Shulay, Dr. Brooke Shulay. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah, I just want to close by, thinking about, I'd mentioned it at the beginning, and what was one big thing that stood out, maybe an aha moment that you heard, maybe something that really kind of crystallized, or something you already do, not necessarily needing to share that with the whole group, but I think it's a really good way to kind of sum up a day like today. What really resonated with you? And like Dr. Jason said, oftentimes we hear things and it's we get triggered by things in good ways where, oh yeah, what that person said, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna bring that with me. So I invite you to just think about that. What's one big thing? Maybe what's one small action step that you can build into your day-to-day life right now? I think those are really good ways to kind of sum up, events like these and bring this material